Wholesale arbitrage for people outside the US. How can I find suppliers who don't ask for a reseller's permit? In Mexico, that document doesn't exist. Thanks, Brian. So in that aspect, two things with that, Hernan. I would say number one, you need a wholesale permit or a reseller's license, or there's a million different names for it, depending on the state that you're trying to get it in, or there might even be, that document in Mexico just under a different name, right? So maybe call up, your local government or whatever it is and ask if that's something that you can get. I'm sure there's some kind of document that basically shows that you're either a sole proprietor or I think they call it a sole trader in the UK. So there's probably some kind of document that maybe you're not aware of, but if not, I don't live in Mexico, so maybe if not, then what I'd recommend is, secondly, if you can't find that, or you've searched or you've called, your government and there's no way to kind of get around that, then what I'd recommend is just form an LLC in the US in, a state that has tax benefits. I'm not going to recommend a specific state. You can just Google that and figure out which one it is. There's a bunch of them. I think like Texas comes to mind. I think Florida comes to mind. Just Google them. I think Delaware comes to mind. Like I said, there's like 7 to 10 of them, I think. So just Google that, form an LLC, maybe Rhode Island's another one. Form an LLC in one of those states in the US. It's only going to cost you, if you do it through like LegalZoom, it's really only going to cost you like $150 to like $300 depending on the state, but just go with one that's like a cheaper state, like $150, and then you're $150 into your LLC. You formed an LLC to protect yourself, which is what I always recommend eventually anyway for resellers. So you knock that out of the park, and it's relatively cheap at $150. Plus, if you're scaling up wholesale to any certain degree, you're probably, gonna start a legitimate business anyway and be selling a lot and making a lot of money with that. So you probably want an LLC in the future anyway, right? So form an LLC in one of those states, and then with that LLC, you can get a reseller's permit. I believe there's a section toward the end of the course that shows you how to get a reseller's permit. If you need me to point you in that direction, just comment on this and I'll point you in that direction. But that's what I'd recommend. If you can't find it in Mexico, which you probably can, but I could be wrong. Like I said, you would know better than me. Then go with an LLC, form an LLC, and use that LLC to get a reseller's permit in the US, okay? If that doesn't work, or you don't want to do that, then just pick a different business model. There's a bunch of other business models that you can do from Mexico, right? So you can also probably get, coupon sites or cashback sites, or even liquidation, and order it to you and then resell back on Amazon Mexico, or, other reselling, marketplaces that you like maybe eBay Mexico or something like that, if that exists. I think it does, back in yours. Or you can just use a prep center for the US. One of the best ways, and I have a couple students in Mexico that I know of firsthand that do reselling books back on Amazon US with a prep center, and it's super easy because while they're charged a slight fee per product, it's only like 50 cents to $1 fee per book, and then your margins are a lot, right? So that you can afford to take that like $1 or 50 cents off the book margin, because your margins are going to be like $20 to like $100 sometimes on a book, and then just ship it into FBA and let FBA US store all your book inventory, and then you're just going to make good money on those books, and it doesn't really cost you a lot, right? So those are the best options for you. Like I said, check Mexico. If not, then get an LLC and get a reseller's permit in the US. Do it that way. Or if not, just pick a different business model that doesn't require you to get a reseller's permit, although liquidation obviously would as well. So I hope that helps and answers your question.